Hello, I'm King Essene. Today I invite you to explore the roots of your creative DNA. I'll share key influences that help me to connect the dots between my past and present. Embrace your origins. Let's begin this transformative journey together. I started my journey in the early 70s as the child of West Indian and South American parents. Now, there's a lot of tradition in the South American and Caribbean cultures. But the thing that I learned that was very important for me was that even though your parents may have a vision for you, they also influence you with the things that really inspire them. My father was a doctor, my mother was a teacher, but they always exposed us to all of the arts, whether it be dance, music, film, fashion. They seem to have a well-rounded knowledge of all of those cultural expressions, and it really inspired me. I also had a very well-renowned uncle named Sir Frank Bowling. He's now Sir because he's been knighted for his work in the field of visual arts, but he was someone who was around us. And on my mother's side, I had a very famous cousin who died before I was born, but he was still very much a presence in the family discussion. His name was Rupert Cross. He was nominated for an Academy Award for a Steve McQueen film called The Reivers. But at any rate, I wanted to be a doctor like my dad. I was interested in science, and my mother always stressed education. But I knew that there was more that I wanted to do, and I always had an interest in art. For me to really understand what motivated my interest, I had to reach back ancestrally, honestly. And I recently discovered on a trip to England for an exhibition at the Tate Museum for my uncle how influential his mother was to him by encouraging him to travel through the jungle to do deliveries of different fabrics to the East Indian families to create their saris. My uncle Frank, he had a strained relationship with my grandfather, but that pushed him more towards my grandmother, who was very business-minded, and you can see a lot of her influence in his work by using textiles, by representing her store. And honestly, I think that it was that context and that sort of work in terms of delivering for her that influenced him to become a visual artist. He captured a lot in terms of his experiences, and it came out in his work. And it very much influenced me as a young child. I wanted to be a painter like my uncle. And when he would come by the house, I would show him what I'd painted, and he would say, "You did that? You did that? I can't believe it." And I would get so excited. But the interesting thing is, he could have been joking with me about the measure of my work, but I honestly feel like he was encouraging me, and I was happy about it. Encouragement is everything to a child. Now, my father also had a challenging relationship with my grandfather because my grandfather was a wonderful caretaker and provider, but maybe not so affectionate. At any rate, a way that I feel my father was able to find or tap into my grandfather's type of affection was by when he was a child, and he and Frank would always be getting into things that children do, making kites, riding bikes, and sometimes they would have little accidents, whether it be, getting cuts or scrapes. And the thing that my dad would always tell me is that my grandfather, even though he wasn't like a big hugger and kisser, whenever they had wounds, would be very deliberate and caring about dressing the wounds. And so interesting, I realized that was probably what influenced my father to become first a nurse and then become a doctor. But underlying the interest in being a doctor was his care for people and wanting to serve people and assist people. That was his connectivity to his community and the people around him. He felt more of a whole person by sharing and caring, especially as it related to their physical health. So when I reflect on myself, I knew that I didn't want to be a doctor, and I didn't necessarily want to be a visual artist, but I did want to work with art, but only on a level of integrity, in a way that would assist and encourage people. And that's a way that I believe I found my own purpose as it relates to what I'm doing now, working with artists, helping to preserve their integrity as well as encouraging them. So let's start there. Embrace your origins. Figure out what it is inside you that motivates you. That's the first step to cultivating the alchemy through cultural expression.